All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're exploring a totally fascinating and honestly almost invisible phenomenon. We're talking about why highly intelligent people slowly fade away from their social circles. And get this, they do it without any dramatic goodbyes. There's no final blow up argument, no grand announcement that they're leaving. Instead, one day, you just realize they're less present. Because that's the inevitable question that pops up, right? You know how it goes. A text goes unanswered, an invite gets politely declined, and then another one, until finally someone looks around the room and asks, hey, whatever happened to them? To the outside world, it feels super sudden, almost like a vanishing act. But, as we're about to see, this disappearance is anything but sudden. Now, society usually feeds us this myth about the whole disappearance act. We're told it's just arrogance, like they think they're better than everyone else, or that they've just grown bitter and totally stopped caring. But the reality is actually profoundly different. They haven't stopped caring at all. They've just started seeing the underlying architecture of human behavior in a way most folks never do. And the thing is, once you see it, you literally cannot unsee it. So, let's get into Section 1, the power of pattern recognition, seeing the unseen. To really get this, we have to start with a pretty innocent but honestly dangerous assumption we all make in our social lives. We assume that what someone says and what they actually mean are the exact same thing. It all kicks off with what psychologists call pattern recognition. Basically, it's your brain's natural matching mechanism, and it gets sharper and sharper with experience. When someone becomes highly self-aware, their mind starts connecting these social dots that used to just float around separately. They start picking up on subtle, tiny shifts in how people interact, stuff that most people are just way too distracted or too wrapped up in the performance of social life to ever notice. So what exactly are they seeing? Well, they start picking up on this hidden terrain. They notice that compliment that's kind of wrapped up in something sharp, or a friendly smile on the outside that's actually masking a deep inner wound. They spot the friend who literally only reaches out when they need a favor and never bothers to ask how they're actually doing, or that person who cheers for their success in public but gets strangely cold in private, almost like someone else's growth exposes a dark spot they wanted to keep hidden. And look, here is the absolute key takeaway here. Recognizing these patterns, it's not about becoming super cynical or losing your faith in humanity, not at all. It's actually a really deliberate choice to stop confusing mere attention with genuine connection. It's deciding, hey, I'm no longer handing the keys to my inner peace to people who haven't shown they know how to protect it. Because protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's a completely radical act of self-respect. Which brings us to Section 2, paying the noise tax, the hidden cost of awareness. Because behind all this pattern recognition, there's a very real, very hidden cost. Just imagine what it's literally like to walk into a room when you're carrying this level of awareness. Your mind is just constantly running, mapping out this invisible emotional terrain. You aren't just hearing the words being said, you're tracking microexpressions, mapping the subtext, paying attention to who's dominating the conversation and who's staying totally silent. You're always measuring that gap between the performance someone is putting on and the truth of what they're genuinely feeling. And the kicker? It's not a switch you can just flick off. And this perfectly sets up a fascinating concept I like to call the noise tax. You know, when a conversation that used to be exciting just starts feeling completely predictable, or a party just leaves you feeling completely hollow, it's like having 50 tabs open in your brain's browser while trying to run a massive software update. Your nervous system eventually learns that certain social environments are just fundamentally extractive. They take way more than they give, quietly draining you and leading to this deep, almost cellular depletion. And cognitive psychology actually backs us up with hard data. It shows us that highly self-aware people with a lot of cognitive complexity, are spending way more mental energy in social situations. We're talking sometimes double the mental operations compared to the average person sitting right across from them. So this depletion we're talking about, it isn't just a metaphor. It's a very real biological, neurological fact. Since we all have this totally finite tank of emotional and cognitive energy, highly self-aware folks literally feel it draining in real time. And that sparks a massive turning point. They stop and ask themselves, wait, is this interaction actually nourishing me, or is it just occupying my time? Let me tell you, once you ask yourself that question honestly, without flinching, the answers you get will completely turn your social world upside down. All right, moving on to Section 3, the mirror of projection, understanding Carl Jung's insight. Let's pivot to a really powerful psychological theory that explains exactly why intelligent people hit the brakes. It all goes back to the legendary psychoanalyst Carl Jung. Jung hit the nail on the head with something intelligent people eventually see with painful clarity. He realized that most people aren't actually reacting to you at all. Nope, they're reacting to a version of you that exists entirely inside their own heads. A version shaped by their own fears, their insecurities, their unhealed wounds, and their unspoken jealousies. So that person criticizing you, they might just be reacting to what your success represents. It's a mirror they just aren't ready to look into. So what does deep emotional intelligence actually look like in the real world? It's basically a three-step process. First, it's witnessing someone else's emotional chaos, like their envy or their desperate need for validation. Second, it's recognizing it for what it is, their inner world spilling over onto you. You're just the canvas, guys. You are never the target. And third, it's making the conscious, active decision to not absorb it. This is exactly why intelligent people step back. Not because they don't love people anymore, but because they finally love themselves enough to stop carrying baggage that was never theirs to hold in the first place. Let's dive into Section 4, Walking Toward Yourself, the Paradox of Withdrawal. This is where we hit the absolute biggest misunderstanding of this entire explainer, the assumption that pulling away comes from a place of hating others or just loving isolation. Society's always so quick to slap the label antisocial on these folks, right? We just assume they love being lonely. But the psychological truth is so much more empowering. You aren't antisocial. You are just depth-starved in a really shallow world. They aren't falling in love with loneliness. They are falling in love with clarity. Because for the very first time, silence stops feeling like something is missing and starts feeling like genuine presence. And modern psychology totally backs this up. When you actually take a step back and cut out that endless loop of social validation, your ability to self-reflect goes through the roof. Seriously. Embracing just raw, quiet stillness, that hugely enhances your emotional regulation. And honoring your personal boundaries actually boosts your long-term decision-making. In all that quiet, you can finally hear your own authentic thoughts, instead of the constant, exhausting noise of everybody else's expectations. So the big takeaway here is this. While everyone else is out there frantically chasing likes, comments, and invites, the person who stepped back is quietly building something invaluable. They're building a version of themselves that doesn't need constant applause to feel whole. Because true confidence, it's not built from applause. It's built from the quiet, daily decision to trust your own perceptions and stand firm on your own boundaries. Which brings everything full circle. That disappearance we talked about right at the start, it isn't sudden at all. It's a really slow, careful unwinding that happens over months, maybe even years. It's choosing yourself over the exhausting performance of always being on and available. It's figuring out the difference between a real conversation and a performance, and just refusing to argue with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. It's ending those transactional friendships where you're just the anchor keeping them steady while you're quietly drowning. They just stop hoping to find peace someday and start actively practicing it right now. These folks realize that emotional bandwidth isn't just this unlimited resource you can hand out to anyone who asks. The people around us literally shape who we become over time. There's this fantastic quote that says it perfectly. Every yes to the wrong person is a quiet no to your own peace. Let me tell you, once a person truly internalizes that, their entire life shifts. So if you've been finding yourself naturally stepping back from groups or chats that used to feel like home but now kind of feel like cages, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to chew on. Don't worry about whether you're becoming antisocial. Instead, ask yourself this. Are you running away from people, or are you finally just walking towards yourself? Remember, your rarity, your deep awareness, and your quiet intensity, they were never a weakness. They have always been your absolute quietest kind of strength.